Hey, it's Juck.
And I don't think he's going to throw the ball as much as he thinks he's going to throw the ball now that Chip Kelly's on board. And I'm happy about that. More quarterback.
The truth is, Ryan Day has made a change philosophically, but it's none of those.
You all know who wins. LSU is the drunkest fan base in the country.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for a special edition of the Juckeye Roast. Fellas, how we doing?
Good, man. Living the dream, man. It's crazy seeing all of us on one screen at the same time. It's like, whoa.
It's a lot of people here.
I'm loving it. Good idea for a Friday, Ron. I got the text from Ron yesterday. I was on the show and I pulled it up. I told everybody what we were going to do today. Why not? It's Friday. We got a big weekend of games. Let's get it.
Absolutely. It's your boy Ron James of Best Damn Media. Obviously, you guys know Juck, you know Q, and obviously Pat and Chris. We are here for a special Week 6 panel to discuss college football, Ohio State, everything. I mean, we had such a great time last time we had Juck on the show, so I figured why not reach out and see if we could do this again. Q and I are both off work today and still found a way to be late for the show, but we're here and the show has started. So
it's because Q is still asleep. He's sleepwalking already.
It just went past 6 a.m. so I don't want to hear it.
I called
now. He's in go mode now.
I called Q yesterday and I said, look, you have an opportunity to sleep in. We're going to do a crossover show with Juck. This feels like Jimmy Neutron and the Fairly Odd Parents, where two universes collide to come together for an episode. But, man, let's just jump right into it. I mean, it is Week 6, and college football is getting started tonight. We talked about it a little bit yesterday about how much I personally love these Friday college football games. I know it takes away from high school football a little bit. I saw them talking in the chat already, talking about the big high school games that they are hitting up this weekend. Juck, you want to talk a little bit about the high school games you guys are going to?
Yeah, so Chris and I are going to Walsh Jesuit and in Hoban, and this is a game that's obviously everybody knows the talent at Hoban. Tons of Buckeye prospects. We got Sam Greer, you got Rock Hill, Brayton Feaster, and obviously a Buckeye commit Eli Lee, linebacker for next year. But there's some really good talent at Walsh too that'll be playing at the next level. Milan Paris is an excellent wide receiver who's been rising up the ranks, and this game is going to be a banger, one of the most anticipated in Northeast Ohio of this year. I can't wait, man. I've been pumped for this thing all week. And when we talk about the Friday night college games, and I've talked about this a couple times, I know that, like, I knew I was going to be. I'm someone who loves going to high school games. And I knew that once they started playing good games, good Big Ten games, especially on Friday nights, that I would start sloughing off the high school games to watch the college football, which is something Big Ten has feared for a long time, and they didn't want to do it. And sure enough, this is just the second high school game I've gone to this season. So, you know, I'm back and forth on it. Like, I do love it, just like you said. Like, I love that Oregon's playing tonight. We get to see if Sparty can put up a game after getting beat up by us last week. About that game though, I feel like Sparty's going to be beat up, traveling, not play so hot on a short week, and Oregon's going to be running their mouths because they're going to beat him by a bigger margin than we did. I feel like we're going to deal with that all week.
Yeah, conference realignment's so funny because they're gonna have to drive the truck over too. Like, everyone's been talking about the Miami, equipment trucks to drive from like Miami to Cal. But shoot, I mean, the Michigan is that game at Oregon?
Yeah, it is.
At
Eugene.
Oregon, they got to drive from Lansing to Eugene. That's quite a hike. I had to do it a little bit earlier because obviously this game's being on Friday. But Juck and I will both go into the Walsh game. I'm excited, man. I love high school football. I love that Keller kid. He's not quite a P5 kid, but I think he's definitely a D2 quarterback, and honestly could land G5 somewhere and really someone's going to be really happy with him. But that's a game that's going to be I don't know who the favorite is, but this is going to be a game that should be super, super competitive.
You want to let me pull up
here we go.
One
of the favorites. Who you rooting for, Juck?
I was just about to ask you guys, do you guys have a prediction or a rooting interest? I know you guys are Akron guys, so is it open all the way?
These are actually both of my high school rivals. I went to St. V. There's 3 Catholic schools in the area, and I hate them both. But I have no rooting interest other than I want to see the players play good. I want to see them show out, and I think they will.
I just want to see if Keller tests Rock. That's all I want to see. I want to see if Walsh wants to test that corner out there, which honestly you don't see a ton, but like Keller's the kind of personality that's like isn't going to shy away from one side of the field because of that. So
Walsh is 12.5-point underdogs tonight.
Whoa.
I find it insane that they set lines for football, but it doesn't. I mean, they say it just means more in the SEC. When it comes to high school football, it's just a little bit more in Ohio. I know Q will not be watching any college football or high school football this weekend. He's going to be in these streets. But me and Pat will be watching college football. I know you guys will be at high school football. There are 2 college games that I want to talk about real quick. Michigan State takes on Oregon. Syracuse takes on UNLV. Who are you watching? Are you watching the Ops to get a look at Oregon before we take them on, or are you still watching the Fighting Kyle McCords? I don't know about you guys. I still have a rooting interest in Kyle. I've watched dang near every Syracuse game this year. You guys will be at high school football. Pat, what are you going to be watching tonight?
I mean, honestly, Chris had me tailing the fucking Syracuse college football playoff future. So I'm going to be watching that to start. I honestly think that's going to be a sick matchup too against UNLV because they're another team that obviously is playoff hopes. So I think I'm going to be more so tuned into that one. But honestly, I kind of want to look at Oregon and see, a little bit of what to expect heading into next week as well. So I'll be flipping back and forth between both of those tonight.
Q, when you check the box score in the morning, what are you going to be looking for in that Oregon-Michigan State game after they play?
I still want to see if Oregon is finally catching up to what we thought they were going to be. I talked crazy about Dan Lanning early in the season. I'm going to blame this one on Chris as well. I thought they were going to come out and ball, and they came out really slow. So I was like, okay, I might have been wrong. I'll put that one on Chris. But they picked it back up in a recent week. So I'm like, all right, we got a game about 2 weeks here. I want to see if they continue to rev it up and ball out.
Juck, go ahead, Chris.
I just want to. I'm shocked that Pat doesn't look like a complete nerd.
Actually, looks like he's got a little swag. Let's go.
There we go. The chat's loving Pat on the screen. Juck, we talked about this. We talked about this Oregon team last time we spoke. They didn't look that great early in the season. They seem to be getting things rolling a little bit on offense. Mm-hmm. I know transitive property isn't the greatest way to assess teams, but is there something that you're looking for in this game, something that you're looking to glean from a common opponent right before we play each other?
I mean, I feel like the Bucks did and the good news is these games, both of them, Syracuse and UNLV and Michigan State, Oregon, don't start till 9. So I'm going to get to see a lot of these games, and I'm really excited about that live. But to answer your question, I also, like you, have some interest in Syracuse still as well. I don't know why, but this story it's grabbed me. I'm rooting for them, and I'm having fun with them. I like Syracuse being good. I liked them being good back in the day, and I would like them to kind of come up as a program. And though I don't think Fran Brown will stay around there long, maybe him turning it around a little bit can get some momentum going on in that program. So definitely excited to see that. But as far as Oregon goes, I want to see how this offensive line deals with that Sparty front compared to how the Buckeyes did. And, we've got we came into the season and ranking. I did a show ranking these 2 units, or actually every unit on both teams, Oregon and Ohio State, just kind of head to head. And their offensive line had the clear advantage. They have, obviously 2 really good tackles, and the interior was supposed to be solid. It's not looked solid at all. So the interior of that offensive line, if they don't look so hot against Michigan State, Tyleek and Ty are going to absolutely eat them alive.
Coming into the Ohio State game, Michigan State was one of the top teams in the country for sack percentage. They did not take Will Howard or Devin Brown down at all in this most recent game. Do you think that that'll be a good assessment of Oregon's offensive line if Michigan State's able to get to the passer after not being able to get to the quarterback against Ohio State this past weekend. I guess I'll toss the question to all of you guys. Would you expect over under 1.5 sacks by Michigan State against this Oregon offensive line? We heard a lot during the offseason about the trenches. That was a phrase that we heard from Oregon fans a lot on Twitter, and they bragged about their trenches. And then they did the Homer Simpson meme where they sink back into the bushes and they're nowhere to be found after week 1 or 2, and no one's talking about Oregon's trenches anymore. So over under 1.5 sacks given up by this Oregon offensive line tonight.
Definitely over for me. No, under. They don't really throw the ball downfield, do they?
That's what I was going to say. Is
Not
that Dylan
much.
Gabriel gets the ball out so quickly that I think it's going to be under, because his average depth of target this year is way down compared to last year.
Yeah, I mean, like 2 weeks ago, he had 25 completions behind the line of scrimmage.
Dear Jesus.
Q, Chuck.
Yeah, I'll go under as well. I think he's going to get the ball out quick.
I actually have the same thought process as Pat on here. Like these guys with the 3-yard passes, it's I mean 40 of them a game. I just don't see it. They kill a sack game. They kill those numbers. It's going to be kind of skewed, but I'm more interested in their run game. I want to see if they can run on Sparty. It's just the offense does not look like something that I feel like this Buckeye defense is going to have a ton of issues with. I'm feeling so much more confident about that game next week than I was 3 months ago. I mean, just night and day. But like Q, I was so high on Oregon coming into the year. I've been pretty disappointed. I mean, not disappointed. Disappointed in my prediction. I'm happy about it.
If I were you, I'd distance myself from Q off-season takes. I mean, Mr. Mike Norvell down there, not looking so hot with those preseason takes.
How are you gonna say? Talk about it's my fault about Dan Lanning when you said you want Mike Norvell to be the next head coach at Ohio State.
That's not what I said. That's
Like you want Norvell to be the next. He's literally Billy Napier if you take away the Jordan Travis kid.
Billy Napier with cornrows.
The team, it's not Norvell.
You really want G5 Billy over here? That's crazy. You would have DJU as our starting quarterback too, wouldn't you, Q?
I heard that he's going to have a 6-year of eligibility, so don't rule it out. Mateo DJ package deal on the table still. You guys discussed depth of target a little bit. It's been a little bit of a concern for Ohio State's defense in these early starts with the short game getting going for these other teams. You've seen people complaining on the timeline about how far the corners are lining up off the line of scrimmage at the beginning of games. With the depth of target for Dylan Gabriel, does that worry you guys going into this Oregon game, the short game, neutralizing our defensive line and our pass rush with getting the ball out quickly and then really attacking these corners and coverage that we've seen willing to give up the short yardage and that bend don't break mentality? Do you think that's going to work against Oregon, or will they need to adjust to stop that?
I think 100% they are going to adjust, and I think Noel's kind of alluded to that in the press conference this week. Matchup dependent, and I think for Oregon we're going to see a lot more press, a lot more. You know what? I even think that that might be the day that we see a lot more Arvell for that speed. See a lot more of that. And on Arvell, man, I was really stunned, guys, and I said it earlier in the week. Not a single question about him in the press conference or the situation with the snaps being divvied up there the way they are. Which
is that a gag order, Juck? Is that a?
It must be, bro, because I literally listened to it, and this is not just something that guys like us talk about, but I even heard several of those guys that were in that room talk about the same thing all week. Like Arvell needs more snaps. And then they went in there and none of them asked the question.
Welcome to the OSU beat. We said every week. I think we talked about with the quarterback battle, and they went in to ask no questions about the quarterback battle. I'm with you. I've hyped Arvell Reese up. My stock has gone through the roof at the start of this season. So if you need some money, just let me know. But definitely, he's got to play more snaps than 19. You know what I'm saying? I got my futures bet hit. I'm like, some people's in here. So we good money right now. Yeah, he's got to play more snaps.
Excuse me, if we're going to be talking about off-season stocks hitting, I'm pretty sure you sold all of your Gabe Powers stock, and if I'm looking at the stats here, Gabe Powers more interceptions than Arvell Reese. I'm just saying that wasn't the greatest financial decision to sell all of your Gabe Powers stock.
I'm just saying, it looked like it paid off, man. It's like, NVIDIA for Hershey, bro. Just level out here.
Before we do a full deep dive on Ohio State, I do want to talk about one more thing with the Friday night slate. UNLV 4-0. We talked about the 2 games being played tonight, and we didn't talk about a potential playoff team. We see one of the weirder cases in college football, probably one of the weirder NIL situations that we've ever seen in college football. They end up starting their backup and getting the win. They've moved to 4-0. You guys, UNLV still a team to watch, given they've lost their starting quarterback to an NIL controversy. And your thoughts there on, did you ever think we'd see someone quit on their team in the middle of the season because the check didn't clear?
I never thought we would see it from someone who was borderline not good when their backup is really good. Like, if I was a starting quarterback, I would be doing everything I could to make sure that guy never sees the field. And as soon as bro went down, the team started being like, about time. Like, we needed a new QB1 anyway. Like, yeah, we're undefeated, but not because of you, in spite of you. And then the new dude comes in, runs for 100, has 200 passing yards. Everyone's hype about it. So, like, I wouldn't do it if it was going to lead to myself clearly getting dunked on within a week.
Bro, Pat called it last Friday. He was like, as soon as he went out, he was like, the backup quarterback's better, right? I think they roll this weekend.
This is my favorite stat. There's 156 qualified quarterbacks in Division I, and Matthew Sluka, the old UNLV quarterback, is dead last out of 156 quarterbacks in the country in adjusted completion percentage. He just sucks. Like, it's just hilarious that he thought that this would be kind of like a power move, and he's going to get more money out of this, because I don't know how bro is going to get anything after this.
That is an excellent stat, and we hear the wide receiver 1 was already popping off. He had an amazing game, his first game with the new kid who's got 3 names. Chris, what's his name?
The kid with 3 names?
The new UNLV quarterback.
Sam Williams Dixon.
No, it is. I don't know the first name, but it's something Williams, right? Like Max Williams?
No, it's like Haj Succums.
Yeah, but is it Williams in there?
I don't know, bro. The point
This is the new UNLV quarterback?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Black History Year. I'm supposed to know it.
Yeah, it's serious. It's Black History Decade. You can't see this guy's name is Haj something. And
it's Haj Malik Williams.
Yeah,
Haj Malik Williams. There we go.
Haj Malik Williams.
And
the hyphenated first name, that's a new one there.
That's really just Mike Jones. That's Blueface.
But as far as UNLV goes, guys, UNLV was really solid last year. So, this is not just a flash in the pan. And I gotta make an admission now. So, I have been bagging on the 12-team playoff for as long as it's been announced. And what I never liked about it is, yes, you have games that are more meaningful on the back end, but the games are less meaningful during the regular season for the teams on the front end, the ones that we actually care about. And I thought that this was going to take away some of my enjoyment during the college football season. And through 5 weeks, I'm ready to say I was wrong. I love Indiana and UNLV and talking about this. And it's added a whole new dimension of excitement and things to talk about and storylines that I just didn't anticipate caring about, but I do. So I was wrong. Mea culpa. There it is.
Because more teams get in, there's more meaningful games. Like, yeah, like the guys at the top, like the Bamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, like every game's not as important. But for like Indiana and them, everything's still a playoff game. It's like, yeah, like we can afford to lose to maybe Ohio State, but we got to win everywhere else. And so it provides urgency and more interest. Because, like, let's face it, if this wasn't a 12-team playoff, we would not care about Syracuse's record. We care about Kyle McCord and his stats. Exactly. That's it. Because of the 12-team playoff, we're like, shoot, dog, with that schedule, they could actually make the playoffs.
It's crazy. It's
and
fun.
That makes them more interesting.
It is. It's a lot of fun. I didn't think I would care. I didn't think it would be fun because the truth is we all know, make the playoffs or not, none of these people are doing anything in the playoffs, right?
Right.
And I thought that's the reason why I wouldn't care, but I do. It just adds a whole nother layer of things to be excited about and fun to the college football slate, right? And that's what I look forward to is the slate of games on Saturday, and it adds interest to so many more new games.
You mentioned that a lot of these teams are going to get in and they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs. They're likely just going to get bounced. But I feel like we're sleeping on an element of this season that the 12-team playoff can add is we've been talking about the bowl games being dead for years. If one of these, Syracuse, a UNLV, comes into the playoffs and is able to knock off someone in that first round, one of the top 4 seeds might not lose because obviously they're on a bye. But that first week, that win in a playoff and the delusional hype, we just got to win 2 more games and we're there, is going to change the the postseason for an entire fan base because they're all going to start to believe. So I feel like the death of college football has been vastly overstated between the 12-team playoff and NIL. I think NIL, while people complain about how much it's changed the sport, I think it's changed it for the better, because you talk about the 12-team playoff making us discuss the Syracuse record. It's the reason why we're watching Colorado, because we have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter out there. It's the reason why we're watching Dylan Raiola at Nebraska. The talent distribution all over the nation has made the college football viewing experience on a Saturday that much more special. Your guys' thoughts there on not only the college football playoff, but NIL adding talent and dispersing talent around the country, making a lot more games more exciting to watch.
I think the balance of talent definitely is showing itself. We talk about the Heisman race every week, and if you look at it, it's absolutely insane right now. You got a couple freshmen, Travis Hunter. I mean, it's going so well. Shedeur is not even in there right now, despite balling out. And you got me catching Boise games on a Friday night, which
you look like you watch Boise.
Lies. You asked me preseason, I'd be like, man, I'm checking the box score. I'm in here tuned in. Like, when Genty playing, let's roll. So most definitely, I think it's made it more exciting, and to just filling out. We talk about bracketology, filling out your playoff bracket, like, who's going to win? Where's the pole position in the ACC, which no one would care about, prior to this season. I think a lot of things have helped college football become more exciting this season.
As a whole,
Q's a Kansas State fan, just so y'all know.
Hey, I got
in the back.
I got a pair of Will Howard's Kansas State pants right over here on the wall.
That's awesome.
Right on screen, I have a pair of Terrell Pryor gold pants. eBay. Gotta steal. But I do want to talk about the Buckeyes. I mean, it feels like the first 3 weeks we had an Amber Alert out for the tight end position. I didn't even know if we still had those on the team. You see G. Scott start to get going a little bit. You see Jelani out there, but he's there, but it's not happening. Juck, what happened to the tight end position at Ohio State? They told us with Jeremy Ruckert that we were going to break records. We didn't. Converted Cade Stover to tight end, broke all those records we said we were going to break with Jeremy Ruckert, and now nowhere to be found after I feel like we anointed Keenan Bailey the next coming as far as recruiting experts and coaches on this staff, and it feels like the tight end position has been MIA all season.
Yeah, I mean, props to Keenan for Nate Roberts and Brody Lennon. I think these dudes are a couple of studs that are coming in, but right now we are dealing with, outside of Jelani, a serious lack of talent that just doesn't match up with the rest of the team. And, these guys are what they are. They're trying their best. I think they're all really fully engaged and really good guys. It's just not there, man. And when you look at last week, I don't know what happened. It had to have been something in practice, but Jelani's snaps got cut in half after playing a good game at Marshall to Michigan State. And those snaps all went to G, who went up from 20 to like 32, 34. And, to be honest, G caught a couple short balls and caught a touchdown. Good for him. That was clutch. But overall, the blocking is still really subpar. I think Zach said yesterday from a PFF stat, 60th out of 64 Big Ten tight ends in pass blocking. And you see it on the film. He just bounces off guys. It's just, he's not heavy enough. He's not big enough. He tries his best. It's an issue. And I wanted to see an accelerated track for Jelani's development. I thought we were seeing that. Something happened, man. Something had to have happened. But I found it really ironic that in a game they finally decided to throw to the tight ends, it was G and not Jelani. I'm like, what is going on here, man?
Don't forget, we schemed up a play for Bennett Christian where he fell.
He fell.
so now, like this year, we've seen plays schemed up for Bennett Christian, Will Kazmarek, and G. Scott, and 0 schemed up for Jelani Thurman.
That's correct. It's frustrating, man. It's probably, it's more frustrating to me than linebacker, because I think the linebackers have the talent and they're going to come around. And that's just going to be an issue of them deciding, changing a couple of things around as to who's playing. But But tight end, the lack of development from Jelani. Actually, I think he's developing faster than maybe some anticipated. But I don't know what's happening that dropped his snaps. Something happened, like clearly.
Q? Yeah, I'm with Juck. He had to piss somebody off. I mean, we talked about early in the season, this tight end room was always going to be behind unless they were like, hey, Jelani, we're just going to ride with you and play the talent and hope it catches up to the rest of the room. I mean, the rest of the other rooms on this team. I think Jelani has to play. I think he opens up a weapon that Ohio State just doesn't have, and it will elevate their offense. I mean, if you're going to scheme up Bennett Christian and watch him slide into the mud face first.
He fell on his butt, but I get the sentiment.
Let my man get some spin, man. What are you talking about? Let him get some spin.
I see Emily said in the chat, Thurman had a drop. There was a play to him in the middle of the field. So one play. Pat, your thoughts on the tight ends?
I keep hoping that maybe this is Ryan Day doing a little like gamesmanship and not unleashing Jelani until like the Oregon game. But we're getting to the point where it's going backwards. So I'm starting to lose faith in that hope. I think maybe this week, if we start to see a little more Jelani Thurman, then maybe that would be the case. And maybe this is all just a slow build to not put a whole lot on film for Oregon. But I don't know. As of now, I just think that we won't be seeing much of him anytime soon.
You calling a tight end game like the random tight end game in 2020 Clemson? It's like we hadn't thrown to the tight ends all year, and then randomly, they have like 3 touchdowns against Clemson from Justin Fields.
The Buckeyes clearly had concerns at the tight end position. They go out and pursue a guy like Will Kazmarek out of the University of Ohio. There's another tight end in the state of Ohio balling out at another university, Cincinnati. Why don't you? They have an elite tight end one. Why don't you think the Buckeyes didn't go after that guy in the transfer portal? What's his name? Can you guys help me out?
It'd be Joe Royer.
Spice.
Joe Royer. Oh man, why is that name?
Never heard of.
Sounds so familiar.
You know, the funny thing is he's not the only one.
The guy going absolutely crazy at Cincinnati. Former Buckeye tight end Joe Royer. It seems like he would be the best tight end in the Ohio State tight end room right now, and he's balling out at not the Ohio State University, a Ohio State University. Like, what's going on here, and how much regret do you think that they're having that he is not on this roster anymore?
I'll let Juck take this one.
Probably a whole lot, but you know, I know there was some things behind the scenes with him, and he had some personal issues. I don't know everything about it, but obviously having a great season. I'm really rooting for him, and I think that's awesome. Not the only tight end in Ohio at an Ohio State University. The kid from Bowling Green is fantastic, and he would absolutely be starting for Ohio State right now as well. And that's even more frustrating to me, I think.
How did we get the wrong MAC tight end?
There must have just been so many Ohio State caliber tight ends in the MAC. They didn't know which one to choose, so they just put names in the hat and said Kazmarek.
It's actually crazy. Two of the three leading tight ends or leading receivers at tight end this year are MAC tight ends. The kid Fannin from Bowling Green is one, and Tanner Koziel from Ball State is number 2. How did we get stuck with the worst one?
Q, have you been watching much MAC tight end play? And what are your thoughts here on Ohio State's missing the transfer portal?
I didn't know I was a MAC tight end expert. No, I have been keeping tabs on Joe Royer, and I don't know who. I don't think they have no regret because somebody looked at the film, saw Joe Royer in practice, and was like, "This Ohio kid is better." So I don't think they have any regrets at all. I think all of us looking at the game are just like, "What?" per usual. So then they're like, "Oh, we'll be all right."
Juck brought up the probably most discussed position at Ohio State this year, and I think it's probably a good thing, being that a lot of questions coming into the season, a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback, you're adding another name to this running back room. But the linebackers seem to be the topic of conversation for everyone around the Buckeyes currently, and I don't think many people anticipated that to be the biggest topic of discussion, especially with Cody Simon returning healthy. Sonny Styles, the next coming of James Laurinaitis, allegedly before the season. Your guys' thoughts on the cornerback or the linebacker play? I saw a clip the other day about Sonny leading the team in tackles, but still being one of the lowest graded PFF players.
What's happening at the linebacker position?
I think they're hopeful that Sonny's going to figure it out because he's like athletically gifted, probably the best athlete of the group. But right now, the best linebacker is Arvell Reese. The second best linebacker is Cody Simon. And the best pairing is Arvell and Cody together, probably. But I think that they feel like projecting against like some of the better teams, they're going to need Sonny Styles and kind of the versatility and maybe at times play three linebackers. But I can just feel like they're just trying to force Sonny to be ready and letting Sonny make a lot of the mistakes, even though there's talent behind him, the same way that Ty Eckenberg once went 60 snaps with 0 tackles. So
over the course of 2 games.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that Sonny figures it out. But right now, like Arvell's the better player.
What about you, Chuck?
I have an extreme philosophical difference with the way they're going about this. And Chris is spot on. That's what's going on. I just think that you have a guy, which by the way, Chris talks about Sonny's versatility. He's been horrible in the run game and horrible in the pass game. Like, honestly.
I'm glad Juck said it.
Arvell's versatility is better. And I don't think he is really but a tick. We talk about athleticism. Arvell puts it on display. If we're talking about testing numbers, sure, Sonny's a great athlete. Arvell puts it on display. You can see the athleticism from him. Sonny, I've heard from, even people who don't really follow the Buckeyes closely. Like, I thought this guy was supposed to be a great athlete. That's what they're saying to me when they watch him play, because he doesn't put it on display, much like CJ Hicks in a lot of areas as well. These guys are great gym rats, right? They look awesome in the testing numbers. You don't really see it much on the field. And they are trying to force Sonny to keep going, keep getting it. And they're asking him to do a lot. And ultimately, I think he will. But you're trying to develop Sonny. You got another guy here that also needs the development and is playing better. Now, granted, they haven't needed that excellent play so far. So I'm curious to see how they play it against Oregon. Are we going to see maybe, okay, now it's time to get the best pairing out there a little more? And maybe they know Arvell's further along, so they're feeding Sonny to. Obviously, we know in the press conference that they're trying to keep his confidence up. They both praised his effort. Like, that was meant for him. Like, we believe in you, because what they both said was unequivocal. Sonny's doing great, which we all know he's not.
Are you surprised by that approach? It feels like almost the coaching staff are fighting each other to dive on the sword for Sonny Styles, where they were blocking people on the timeline last year for asking or criticizing any other players. Like, it just seemed odd that they were so willing to tell you that CJ Hicks wasn't willing to play, that they were telling their buddies to go on the timeline and argue with people about it. But now it's like they can't dive on the sword fast enough to defend this kid. Do you find it an odd, I guess, switch up that they're willing to do this for Sonny, who is putting on film bad tape, versus a guy that we weren't seeing get on the field, and they were so willing to tell everyone he wasn't ready to play?
I think Chris described it beautifully on our Monday show when he said it's the favorite son. You know what I mean? And Jim kind of alluded to it when he talked about, we got, he's a good kid and we got good kids, and they listen to what they're told. And he's great. Sonny's awesome in every way. And when you're a coach and you got a guy like that who wins the Iron Buckeye, does everything you tell him, switches positions when you ask him, with a positive attitude, like, you want to do everything you can to pump him up. And I just feel like it's more of a case of that. He's a perfect player for them. You know what I mean? And being someone who's managed a lot of people, when you got someone like that, you just tend to favor him a little bit. And I think that's what's going on here.
I mean, we've had a perfect player before. His name was Tanner McAllister, and Sonny Styles took his job. So
that might be
if you want to be the favorite of Ohio State, like, if you switch
Now look, we've done this year in, year out, where we compare these other young players, and Sonny is still young, across the country, and say they let the coaching staff ride through his mistakes, and he got better later in the season. I don't think, and we complain about Ohio State not doing that and not playing young players for a while. Just because now it's Sonny Styles and CJ Hicks, I don't think we need to turn the leaf and be like, yeah, don't play them at all or limit their snaps. Let them ride.
That's not what anyone. That is not what anyone is saying.
No, I'm not saying y'all in particular, but the fan base is like, I never want to see this guy again. Lock him up, put him away, and it's like,
fan base be bugging. You're right.
Q.
It's like, bro, let him play this mistake. We ain't nobody worried about
Chuck's about to
mistakes.
fry you, Q. Watch out.
Q.
Get the frying pan out.
Q. CJ and Sonny, bro. Newsflash. They ain't young players anymore, bro.
Whose fault is that?
They're in their 3rd year, bro. These guys aren't young dudes anymore.
But Juck, whose fault is that for not seeing players until
playing young players
this
like
season?
that's like Jelani.
Q's talking like this is Ryan Williams at linebacker.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you know he was
I was using
17?
that as an example because we wouldn't see them play any snaps. Now they're starting level players according to Ohio State, and now they play 2 snaps, and we're like, nah, take them out.
So I'm
No,
going to
it's a
pitch this
fair
to
point,
all of
but-
you guys real quick with the young guys argument. Do you feel like the early arrival to Ohio State kind of skewed people's perception and expectations and changed the trajectory of where he should have been playing? If he's in Ohio, if he's not playing nickel safety for Ohio State against Georgia in the playoff, he's at Pickerington, probably the biggest kid on the field, still pretending to play strong safety. Like if he stays there and is already playing linebacker, he's probably on the body trajectory to be playing edge at this point, but they rushed him into college so fast to let this guy who, I'll tell you right now, even if he was still playing safety, would not start at safety on this team because he doesn't have the coverage skills that either one of these guys that already play safety. So we spent a year of this guy playing out of position. He's now playing linebacker, and we're talking about this 3rd-year player as a young guy because he's been moving all around the field. If he would have been in high school playing linebacker or didn't come a year early, or if they didn't rush him on the field and spend a year having him play safety, is he more ready to play linebacker? I toss that question to all of you.
Is he still out of position?
Yes.
Listen, I think that's a great point that you bring up. It was to his detriment to come in early because you didn't get a beat on what this guy was going to fully develop and to be physically into. He's a monster. You know, we did this earlier on when we saw the picture from Family Day. He's as big as Jack. You know what I mean? And we've talked forever about, and honestly, I hate this thing. Like, okay, you're not good enough at linebacker. We did it with CJ. Well, let's throw him at edge. You know, like, okay, you're a freak athlete. You're not good enough at linebacker with Sonny. Let's throw him at edge. But it's just the truth. These dudes would both be better at edge. But Sonny in particular, he's just a monster, right? Physically, he's a beast of a human being. And if he was trying to bulk up, could easily get to 275 in an offseason and just be a total tank. And with that athleticism and that length, he would be a tremendous edge. And not coming in a year early, maybe you didn't see that totally, or maybe you rushed him on the field. I just think it was to his detriment. But I think it's a great point that you bring up. But a guy who is literally gone from safety to linebacker to, I think we all believe when he hits the next level, will probably work his way down closer to the line of scrimmage. It's pretty fun to watch the evolution. And I'm a huge fan of Sonny Styles. I hate to come off like I'm bashing him. I'm not. I do believe in him, the player. A lot of this is coaching and circumstance. And one of those circumstances is coming in a year early was not helpful for him.
Q?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Juck. I'm sure that messed up his trajectory a little bit, and I always figured he was going to play closer to the line of scrimmage. I mean, we'll just have to see the plan and how it works out. I mean, you said these coaches pick the best talent, they know the best. Well, you got these 2 freak shows out here, and Sonny Styles is one of them. You show me you know how to develop them and put them at the right position, and we will see if the experiment works or if it doesn't. But the closer to the line of scrimmage, I think he is, the better I think he'll be.
Pat, what position should Sonny Styles be playing?
I mean, I agree. I think edge probably makes the most sense given his size and freakish ability. It's just that right now, he's not doing anything well to the point where I feel comfortable putting him in a position like that. So I don't know. I mean, I guess as an edge rusher, you take away that coverage responsibility. So I think that's what's limiting him most right now. So I think if you were to get rid of that aspect, maybe just freeze his mind a little bit more and you see more of a loose version of Sonny, that would be my only explanation.
Chris?
Did Sam Hubbard play linebacker and safety at Moeller? I'm pretty sure he did.
He was a safety.
I think pretty sure
he was a safety at Moeller, listed as an athlete, got to Ohio State when he was supposed to, ate a lot, ended up being a defensive end, and he's on his 2nd contract in the NFL.
It's worked out well.
It's worked out pretty well. I think Sonny's a far better athlete than he is. And I always do the, what would Nick do? What would Kirby do? Where would Nick Saban and Kirby Smart have these two kids playing?
Well, that doesn't apply at Ohio State because
you're right.
Because when you get to Ohio State as a scholarship football player, they hand you a paper that says, follow your dreams and tell me, the coach that makes $8 million a year, what position you would like to play.
Right.
Because it's the only team that competes for national championships where they sit down and hold players' hands and say, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, LSU just told a kid, oh, you want to be a running back? Get the fuck out of here. You're a cornerback. And if you don't want to play cornerback, leave. Like, I'm not saying to tell kids to leave. I'm tell kids to play the position that you need them to play to win a national championship.
Yeah.
And if you're a kid thinking about reclassifying, I'm telling you one place that I'm not going, Ohio State. How'd that work for Quinn Ewers? How did that work for Sonny Styles? And then you see Ryan Williams out there pulling his phone out and doing TikToks in the middle of plays because it's so easy for him at 17 years old. Like, if I'm a kid thinking about reclassifying, I'm telling you one place I'm not doing it at, Ohio State.
I do have a question. Do you think Ryan Williams would have played at Ohio State this year?
Absolutely not. And we just heard them talk the other day about Jeremiah Smith. If he wasn't as physically gifted as he is as far as his physical build, would not be on the field either. If he wasn't probably one of the more physically imposing wide receivers on this team, they would have found a way to put someone else on the field. Because you watch Julian Fleming play over Carnell Tate last year, and Liam Clifford gets more snaps than Julian Fleming now. Why? Because Julian Fleming was more physically opposing and looked better missing blocks in the run game. Look at this big guy missing blocks opposed to the small guy out there not blocking.
Bro, somebody called Ryan Williams just Mylan Graham with veneers, and I was that messed me up.
Q, would Ryan Williams play at Ohio State right now?
My heart does not want to believe if Ryan Williams had enrolled at Ohio State, he would not be playing. If he's doing what he's doing against Georgia, against Ohio State DBs, I would have to imagine in 2024 Heartline, not 2022 or 2021 Heartline, where no one plays, that he would have extended depth just a little bit more and got this guy on the field.
So you think the 17-year-old 5-star enrolling this year would jump the only 5-star in 2023 in the Big Ten that still doesn't get on the field?
Ron, I'm very comfortable putting this lie on record. Yes. Yes. I very much think Ryan Williams would be featured as Ohio State offense. Don't hate me.
Juck, would Ryan Williams be playing here at Ohio State?
I don't believe so. No. Unequivocally, no.
We have the do-rag version of him already on campus.
Who?
Mylan Graham.
Another thing that I wanted to discuss today before we get out of here. Juck, you made this point to me in our text conversation about the national media falling out of love with Ohio State. It was scaring all Ohio State fans of all of this hype around Ohio State. It's going to be a curse. Everyone's picking us to win. Chris and I talked about this during the bye week. And what did I say about why I hated the week 3 bye week? Everybody's going to start hating on Ohio State because they have 1 week off. There's so little to talk about, and they're going to fall in love with a new team in that 1 week when Ohio State is playing. I think that solely answers your question of how did everyone fall out of love with Ohio State? They picked new teams during week 3 when Ohio State had a bye week, and they haven't played anyone sexy. We've had all of these. We've had Georgia, Alabama. We've had these sexy games on the schedule before Ohio State has had an opportunity to really show themselves. I feel like they fell out of everyone's conscience when they went on the bye week. Your guys' thoughts there?
I think that combined with having the 3 cream puffs made it made it 4 weeks of nothing, which again, even made the schedule that everybody's ragging on, it made it seem more exaggerated than it really was because you added in that whole extra week of, wow, Ohio State still hasn't played anybody. But no, yeah, it's just all off season. All we heard was about the super team that Ohio State bought, the payroll, all the army of transfers that they brought in, which 94 teams out of 134 have brought in more transfers than Ohio State. And it just totally inaccurate, but the betting favorites, not too just recently, the betting favorites to win it all. And I hear everybody talk about them like they're a tier down from Bama, Georgia, Texas. And I shouldn't care. I probably don't care. I do. It bothers me, man. I don't get it. It's so hypocritical. You know what I mean? Like, you want to crap on them and call them out and say that they've done something wrong by how they've constructed the team, or at least insinuate it. The national media did it the whole offseason. And obviously we've felt the brunt of it from opposing fan bases. But now you pretend like you just forget about them. And it bothers me, but we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. I think it'll all work itself out just fine.
I see someone in the chat saying that they have bad news, that people are still going to say Ohio State hasn't played anyone. You mentioned that people talk about this cupcake schedule. Chris and I have discussed this before. The Buckeyes were supposed to play Washington instead of Western Michigan, and Washington not looking so hot. But at the time of that game being scheduled, Kalen DeBoer was still the coach there. So, I mean, this idea that Ohio State is just scheduling cupcakes and not playing anyone purposefully. Oh, well, ask Michigan if they care about their strength of schedule last year. I mean, they cheated through a cupcake schedule, and I don't think any of them are giving back their national championship yet.
All it is bias against the Big Ten and the top dog in the Big Ten. And that's what it comes down to, because the SEC had some tough matchups early in the year with each other, and there's this extreme SEC bias. The biggest thing to point at is, oh well, Ohio State hasn't played anybody. But if you ask anybody, the Big Ten's a really deep conference, and who's everybody's top team in the Big Ten still? If I went around this table or any round table that talked Big Ten football and said, power rank your Big Ten teams, everybody would have Ohio State 1. So it's yeah, okay, cool, they haven't played anybody, but really this is just your overall bias against the Big Ten so far.
And also, we see it every year with the SEC with teams like Alabama and, everyone else playing the Citadel.
Yeah,
and,
Mercyhurst right before their big rivalry games. All they do is just they start their conference play a week
Shout out
earlier.
to PSAC.
Yeah. they start their conference play a week earlier to get this narrative and get these takes off, because then they throw in that game right before the rivalry week in SEC football. So that's really what it is.
And it's a great strategy. It's worked out fantastic.
Yeah, it has. It's definitely worked out. They're still corny for using that against us, though.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Think about it. If we moved Western Michigan to the week before Michigan and played Indiana a week earlier, nobody would be saying, "Oh, cupcake." Well, they would, because they would be like, "Oh, well, Indiana's not anybody." Because again, it's just more bias against the Big Ten, even though they're a top 5 Big Ten team. And I'd pick them to beat Missouri right now. And the SEC loves to tell us about how Missouri would win the Big Ten. So
no chance. No chance.
Yeah, I know. It's just
I was going to say
we know ball knowers.
I was going to say we took Washington off the schedule and they're favorites against Michigan this weekend, so they must be doing something right.
Favorites against Michigan. Can we talk about that real quickly?
I don't have anything to say. I need you guys to explain it to me. How's the number 10 team an underdog to an unranked team? Make it make sense. Someone help me. I'll sit back on this one.
I gotta go to Pat. Pat, let me know what's going on.
Because Vegas knows more about Michigan than the preseason poll. The only reason Michigan is ranked 10th is because in the preseason poll, that's where they were, because of the defending national champs, because you're taking last year's results into account for this year, which is why the preseason polls are stupid, and they create these unnecessary biases early on in the season, when we've seen Michigan play 4 games now, and they haven't, aside from the USC game, they haven't covered in any other game. So it's what we're seeing on the field is not indicative of a number 10 team, a number 10 ranked team. I think Washington wins convincingly.
Convincingly?
Oh.
Michigan almost blew a 21-point lead to Minnesota at home. And the only reason they were gifted that lead was because Minnesota had a blocked punt and a turnover that set up Michigan inside the 20-yard line. And that's how 14 of their points came, was drives that starting inside the red zone already for Michigan because of turnovers.
Pat, we still have a show to finish, and I can't take my hat off. It's getting too hot in here. You're going to need to calm down if I'm going to be able to finish the show, or I'm going to have to drop. Chuck, what are your thoughts there? He said they're going to win convincingly.
So that's not the way I see this game going down. But to your point, Ron, or your question, when you look at power rankings, which is how Vegas sets lines, I saw one recently. Michigan wasn't even in the top 25 in the power rankings, which is just mind-boggling to me. It's just hard to, as much as I saw, and I think we all saw, just logically how far they would fall back this year, losing all the production, losing the staff, and as much as they told us it was just going to keep on rolling, I didn't quite see it getting this bad. It's bad. I think they're going to lose tonight or tomorrow night, but I don't think it's going to be convincing. And the reason is, like, if these two were on a neutral field, I think I'd pick Michigan. Washington is a tough place to travel and play. It always has been. It's a great venue. Those fans are going to be fired up. I mean, absolutely going bananas to have the rematch. Jed Fish is doing pretty well so far up there with a team that lost. I don't think they're starting but one guy from that team last year.
Crazy.
Is insane. But he's done a really good job. And they got a quarterback who can play a little ball. So I do think that they're going to pull it out. And I hope so.
We talked about Ohio State falling out of the grace of the national media. And another reason that I think may be contributing to this is this team isn't sexy. Like, we don't have a Heisman candidate on this team. The biggest superstar on offense is a freshman wide receiver who is battling for the attention of the national media with another freshman wide receiver at a national power. We get in a superstar like Caleb Downs, and he's playing on one of the top defenses in the country, but he's not just shining because there's tons of talent on that defense making plays, playing as a unit. You see Keon stats down at Alabama, 2 interceptions already, 9 tackles. Caleb Downs' stats don't look like that at Ohio State. Quinshon Judkins, one of the best running backs in the SEC, coming in, splitting carries with Travion Henderson. Will Howard, playing great, but not at a Heisman caliber, being trumped by Jalen Milroe, the Shedeur Sanders, all of these different names within the sport. Emeka Egbuka on pace to break the all-time receiving record at Ohio State, and he's not even the best receiver on Ohio State's team this year. Is this team just kind of so talented that they're kind of taking away from each other's star power and almost playing as a team? It seems like there are no superstars on this team, and the superstar is the Block O.
What's that? The Incredibles movie? The little evil kid says, if everyone has superpowers, no one does. Like, if everybody's special, no one's special.
He's the movie guy. Did he get the line right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something like that. Y'all know what I'm talking about, though, right?
Absolutely, and it's a great line. Even if you just made that up, we're going to start putting T-shirts out that say that phrase and Chris Drew.
That is a great line, and it's a great point, Ron. Like, everybody's so good on this team. There are so many stars that you don't have that Heisman caliber performance coming out every week from anybody, and it doesn't really stand out. That, and maybe people on the outside looking in don't realize, but the thing is, and I was just listening, I think, to you guys the other day talking about, somebody said, we're not talking about Carnell Tate enough, and we do this thing where we have this rotating, like there are so many stars on this team where we have this rotating kind of cycle. We're like, hey, we haven't talked about this guy in a while. Like, he's amazing, right? And then we haven't talked about this guy in a while. There's so many guys that are just amazing football players on this team. It's hard to keep up with them all, or give them all the appropriate amount of shine. You look at a dude like Seth McLaughlin, for crying out loud. This guy's a star. This dude might be the best center in the country. It just goes on and on and on. But you're right. There is no one dude that really shines outside of everybody else, aside from JJ. And that's because he's a freshman right now. If he wasn't a freshman, he'd be getting, a ton of love, but it wouldn't be quite so crazy at this point so far in the season. But no, I'm with you. I do think that probably attributes to some of it. We don't have anybody, that's really a legit Heisman contender. And, the national media likes the stories. So we'll see, though. We got this stretch of 4 games, and I still think once we get through this, if we get through it unscathed, there'll be a lot of criticisms, no doubt. That's the way it goes, but such is life as a Buckeye fan.
I don't know. I think we're one Quinshon Judkins spin move for being sexy again. So once we get that, it's really up for the streets.
But I also kind of love it how it's playing out this way, because preseason, all the talk was that this is the best team ever assembled in college football and so on and so forth. And now that we're actually in the season, we've kind of like fallen behind in like the shadows a little bit because all the talk is about the studs at Bama. And we've kind of forgotten about, like you said, we have all these superpowers here, but no one's really popping off to the point of gaining national media attention, which makes me feel better about this team moving forward because there's not that crazy hype surrounding one individual. And it's so rare that we see, a Heisman winner actually win a national championship. What was Joe Burrow? Or no, Devontae Smith was probably the last one, and Joe Burrow. But besides that, it's like historically, it takes a team to win an Natty, not a Heisman frontrunner. So I kind of love the fact that it's, the star power is divvied up around the whole team rather than just one individual.
You hit the nail on the head there. They're not asking anyone on the team to be the Heisman. I mean, you think about if Kyle McCord was still here, his stats wouldn't look like the way they look at Syracuse because he doesn't need to be Kyle McCord at Syracuse. He would have needed to be a guy that protected the ball and got the ball to Jeremiah when he was open and handed the ball off when he needed to. For the most part, they wouldn't have asked him to be a Heisman contender. But with Syracuse, Kyle McCord has to be the hero. He's one of very few 5-stars on that team. When Ohio State has 5 stars on the bench, when the majority of our shows are, why isn't this 5-star playing behind this other 5-star or this great 4-star? Where Syracuse, I mean, they're still recovering from their hangover from celebrating the fact that they got a 5-star quarterback. So it is a little bit of a different ask for what these players are being asked to do at Ohio State. And I think it speaks to the culture here at Ohio State that guys know that they're coming here not to win individual awards. They're here to win a national championship and to compete for one.
The line is, when everyone's super, no one will be.
There it is.
I'll just say I love having a team where everyone's super and no one will be. I think this is fantastic. Guys, let's get into Iowa for a second here before we wrap. Obviously, a great running back from Ohio who wouldn't have come to Ohio State, as we know, he told us. But they got a really good rushing attack. Do we think that they'll be able to be successful in that run game against the Buckeyes being so one-dimensional?
I don't think you can be one-dimensional and get off against Ohio State.
I don't either.
That's just my personal opinion. I think that's always kind of been been one of the things that Ohio State's been good at for a long time. I mean, even it reminds me like when Melvin Gordon, like when that Wisconsin team was so one-dimensional, and I know different staff, entirely different team, got completely shut down. It's like, okay, like I don't think you can be one-dimensional and get it going. The only time I ever saw it was when Michigan popped off those random huge runs a couple years ago. But I just don't think you can beat this Jim Knowles team without throwing the ball at all. And the only worse thrower than Alex Orji in the Big Ten is probably Cade this year. So,
yeah, I'm with you. I think 2022 Jim Knowles is about to walk out that time machine and be like, yeah, you got to show me. I think they will be stacking the box this weekend, and I don't think Iowa gets off.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the concerns at linebacker. One way to fix that, I don't know, just put them all on the field. I think we're going to see more than 2 linebackers on the field at once. So everybody who wants to see more linebackers play, I think you're going to see plenty of 3 linebacker packages, and you're definitely going to see Jim Knowles. I feel like Jim Knowles takes these type of games personal because everybody talks so much crap on him. Like, oh, you guys couldn't tackle Michigan and you went and hired a Big 12 defensive coordinator. Yeah, we did. And he made our defense better. And let's see you try to run the ball on it. And as far as the comments by Caleb Johnson, I know his agent is punching air right now. Like, bro, they could be calling you in the transfer portal next year. Shut up.
Yeah, but yeah, matchup bodes well at all for Iowa. I mean, Caden McNamara is 13th in the Big Ten in adjusted completion percentage, and he's second to last in the Big Ten in ADOT, average up the target behind only or ahead of only Dylan Gabriel, which is funny. So it's just like there's no recipe for success here. Unless Iowa is generating big runs on first and second down, they're going to be, which I don't think they will, they're going to have third and longs, and they don't have the passing offense to be able to convert on those third and longs against this Buckeye defense, especially with our secondary. So I just think the matchup just doesn't bode well for them at all. I think this could get ugly.
I want to get to a couple super chats before we get out of here. I mean, I can't see the numbers, but I will just estimate how many people are watching. I'd say there's probably 1 million on YouTube, 3 million on Twitter. So if you are part of those 4 million people, make sure you like like the video, subscribe to whichever channel you're watching on. We're on the Menace platform. We are on Juck's channel. We're on the BDMG Twitter. We're on the BDMG YouTube. We are absolutely everywhere. So if you're watching and you like what you're seeing, make sure that you throw a like on the video. Make sure you retweet that. And yeah, pull up. We do this every morning. Me and Q are live at 8 a.m., Juck live at 9. So if you like what you saw, you could get this every morning, 2 hours of the Buckeye Roast and Juck on Bucks. I want to get to a couple super chats before we get out of here. I can't put them on the screen if anyone can help me out there. One from our guy, T. Spivvy. Thanks for the 10 for the gang. We appreciate you. Always tuning in, pulling up, and supporting not only Juck's show, but also ours, a familiar name to both of us. And then another one from our guy, Speedman606. Do you guys think the extra week off could make the top 4 vulnerable to a lower seed to beat them in an epic upset? A lot can be said about momentum. OH. We talked about this a little bit about the playoffs earlier, so I'm guessing that's when this question is from. You guys want to take a stab at that one?
I think being healthy and having time to practice, I think is more important than momentum. That's just my personal belief, my personal philosophy. I don't know how you guys feel.
I think the biggest issue that I saw was the Buckeyes having that early bye week is a killer. Having them anytime from here on out, I think is definitely beneficial.
I think they're talking about the bye week in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, I'm sorry. The bye. Let me read that again.
Yeah.
So, like in the first week of the playoffs, do they think the top 4 seeds will be vulnerable in the second round of the playoffs, having been off an extra week, given the other team already has a week to ramp up to it?
Yeah, that's coming after rivalry week and conference championship week. I think that's going to be pretty beneficial because those are some really tough games for most of those guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like in a sport like baseball, where I'm as a Guardians fan, I'm a little nervous about having this bye while other teams are playing right now, because baseball is such a sport where you have to be locked in at all times. Don't laugh at me. You feel the same way as a Yankee fan.
I love having a bye week. The boys is fresh.
But you don't really get healthy in baseball as much as you do in football. In football, you have to stay locked in for a certain amount of time, and the physical wear and tear on your body is difficult in football compared to baseball. So I think
Pat is stressed.
I am stressed, if you can't tell.
Pat, if you want to not be stressed, you could root for the Pirates, where the only thing that you can tell people about your team is our stadium's pretty.
Great stadium. Great stadium.
Q, what are your thoughts there?
I think in football, it's 100% advantage.
You say,
Q, your thoughts on the playoff bye?
I don't think it's a major concern if the talent level really isn't close. If it's Alabama, I don't think it matters who they come into week 2. If it's Miami and UNLV rolls in, sound the alarm. You might be in trouble. So I think if the talent level is a little closer and the team gets momentum, yeah, you may have some worry. But I think if you're Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, and those, you'll be fine going into week 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the bye will benefit those top teams, and I think those early games are going to bring back some juice to the bowl game and that time of year. A lot of people complained about the baseball adding the wild card, and those games are electric almost every year. So I feel like you're going to have that type of vibe with these early playoff games, given there are a bunch of teams with outside chances to win the national championship. I don't know how often. I mean, maybe outside of Georgia last year, you look outside of the top 4 teams and said, man, UCF in 2018, man, that team could have won a national championship if they got in the playoffs. So I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh, man, this team's really going to be able to do it. But I do think it's going to bring some juice back to the sport. Man, this was awesome having all you guys on here, being able to share the platform with Juck and be able to do this crossover episode. Like I said, this feels like the old cartoon episodes when my 2 favorite cartoons intersected universes.
You talking about Tate from Cultural Headlines?
It feels like we can. It feels like we're bringing the best of both worlds together. Both morning shows coming together for this this show. So it was super awesome to do, fellas. That's all I have. Is there anything you want to get to before we get out of here?
I just want to say, if you guys like this, let us know. Maybe we'll do it again next week to talk about the Oregon game. We got a big week, a ton of talk with the Buckeyes and the Ducks for next week. It's going to be coverage wall to wall all week about that game all over the country. And we will definitely do this again if you guys like it. Let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let us know in the chat if you guys want to see this again. And then if it's terrible, keep that to yourself. But that's all I have, fellas. Q, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, man, I'm not hard to find. City Boy Quitting on Twitter every day, every morning at 5 a.m. for some, 8 a.m. for others on the Buckeye Roast every weekday. Me and my guy Rob be in here. That's where you can find me.
Pat, Chris?
Come on, dude. Come on, dude.
Yeah, I have Chris's phone number. You can find him at 571.
I know it's at least 303.
330.
Oh, 330.
428, whatever he
Get a
said.
pit bulls on the phone. 330.
That's 305. I know that one.
Yeah. Juck?
You can find me at Wyoga Lake Road, Walsh Jesuit High School tonight at 7:30. Walsh Hoban, Juck on Bucks every morning at 9:30 on the Juck on Bucks or Menace platform. You guys are great. Thanks so much for joining us. Ronnie?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at 2Ts. That's 2_TES. You can find me weekdays with Q for the Buckeye Roast at 8 a.m. Monday through Friday. You can catch me pregame on the Menace to Sports platform with Chris Drew for the Best Damn College pregame show. Post games with with Juck on the Juck on Bucks post game show, and then Sunday for Buckeye BS, the flagship.
I'm about to say also, if you're in the chat, drop your at so y'all can find each other.
Yeah.
Hey, Q finally got a good idea. Look at that. All right, do the thing. Do the OH thing.
Oh, yeah. And you know how this ends. Go Bucks and OH.
I-O.
I-O.